Welcome to the Inventor's Edge podcast, where insight meets innovation. Whether you're sketching your first idea or refining a finished product, you're in the right place. Our mission is to equip you with the tools, expertise, and clarity you need to succeed as an inventor, while helping you conquer fears and limiting beliefs that may be holding you back. I'm your host, Scott Putnam, founder and CEO of Inventor's Edge. Before becoming a seasoned product development coach, I was a wide-eyed inventor with a head full of ideas but no clear path forward. I know firsthand what it's like to feel stuck, uncertain, and overwhelmed. Fast forward to today, I'm a successful entrepreneur with multiple licensing deals and products on the market. I'm committed to helping inventors like you overcome obstacles, conquer fears, and transform your ideas into tangible success through proven, actionable, step-by-step strategies that deliver real results. Join us as we bring in industry pros, share expert advice, and dive deep into the world of innovation. Ready to turn your ideas into reality? Let's get started. In this episode of Inventor's Edge podcast, I interview mechanical engineer and inventor Shawn Davis. We discuss Shawn's journey in engineering, the challenges inventors face with product development, and the pressures of perfection in engineering. Shawn shares his colorful experiences with marketing, building relationships with companies, and the valuable lessons learned from his successes and failures in licensing. He also offers valuable advice and fantastic words of wisdom for inspiring inventors. Enjoy the show. In this episode of Inventor's Edge podcast, we're incredibly excited to have Mr. Shawn Davis on with us. Shawn, how are you?
Good, doing good, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Shawn. Tell us where you're from and maybe just tell us a little more about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm from Massachusetts. I've been born here and live here now, pretty close to Cape Cod. Yeah, I kind of grew up, it's funny. I was thinking, like, when did I know I was an inventor? Or, I just grew up always trying to fix things and improve things. And, once I got to like getting ready to go to college, I'm like, all right, well, how can I make some money out of this? And so I was like, all right, looking through books and stuff, and all right, I'm going to be a mechanical engineer. And so it kind of fit like my innate characteristics of wanting to solve stuff. And so that's kind of what got me into that career. There are a lot of aspects of that career that are kind of not my, it can be stressful at times for sure. It can be driven by, company directives and not always like a creative edge, but you do still get to solve problems every day, and you get to make an impact with your creativity most of the time. So yeah, that's why I became an engineer, to do that kind of stuff. And yeah, I try to do a little inventing on the side to kind of keep that creative spark going. That's really enjoyable. So that's what I like to do.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. Yeah, the creative spark is such a huge part of inventing. I think as inventors, we see the world a little differently, and not always as it is, but how it could be. And solving problems, I think there's just something in the human psyche and the human spirit about solving a problem. I've done studies even with chimpanzees, like solving little puzzles, and like there's something about that. And I think for a lot of us, it's sort of hardwired in. I love talking to engineers because you guys are even further along that path of like, okay, now I really have to figure this out, and it's got to work, and it's got to be perfect. And I was just curious, maybe if you could share a little of your journey as a mechanical engineer and inventor, like really, what inspired you to really say, okay, I'm gonna pursue this path. I'm gonna jump in with both feet and do this.
Yeah. So, kind of like what I was saying before, like as an engineer, like working for another company, you have some like sidelines of that you have to work within. You have like financial constraints, you have time constraints, you have, working with different kinds of people that can, sometimes it can be good, sometimes it can be bad. Sometimes you're working with people from other countries. So there are a lot of different like variables that go into like solving problems on a project. And so I've worked at a few different companies. One of my first companies was a medical device company. So making custom like surgical instruments for like specific doctors' requests. So that was kind of my first dive into this doctor is our customer. These are his wants and needs. How can we meet those with a new design? So that was interesting. And then I kind of moved to a magnetic sensing company. So they make a lot of sensors for automobiles, and really they go in just everything. Pretty much any kind of situation where you have a non-contact position sensing. They did a lot of that. And so I got to work on a lot of automotive lines. I was in China for a month setting up a new line for a new brake sensor for cars here in the US. And although it was a great experience, I ended up leaving that company. It was just a little too stressful. And I feel like my creativity doesn't really come out when I'm stressed out. I kind of left there and I went to a company that does a lot of underwater sonar equipment, which is a real love of mine because originally I wanted to go to school to be a biologist as well. So I got to work with making tools for scientists, which was very cool. So I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I enjoyed solving problems for companies and people. And I always had that list at home of things that I saw that had problems that I wanted to solve. And I ran into a lot of online material on YouTube. To me, it just was like, okay, well, try to develop something to a point where you could pitch it, but don't spend a bunch of money. So that's kind of what led me to the licensing journey.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you found the licensing journey because there's so much information about there, and there's so many rabbit holes people can jump into and spend a lot of money in areas that they don't need to. And I think not a lot of people know about licensing. And when you realize you can, especially if you're somebody like you that's creative, you have a lot of ideas, you can take them fairly far down the road in terms of CAD drawings and things like that. And then when you learn how to get them out in front of companies, it's really a powerful feeling because it's like, oh, now I can literally take these ideas and quickly get them in front of companies and get them out there. It's interesting with working on medical products that like people's lives are hanging in the balance. And do you feel that pressure? Like this has to be perfect or somebody's going to literally die?
No,
or was it not?
I wasn't I wasn't like the linchpin in like making sure something was like go or no go.
Okay.
A lot of the stuff was like, hey, like we need this, like this drill needs to have a new handle and it needs to be a lefty handle instead of a righty handle. It needs to be made of a certain material or a certain kind of hammer. I remember doing once to put pins in people's knees and things like that, and they wanted a different weight to it and some different ergonomics. And so I was directed a lot as a junior engineer, by the rest of the team. But yeah, it was cool. I mean, I never really worked on something that was like, would restart someone's heart or something, but it was mostly mechanical tools. Yeah, so a lot of hand tools.
Cool. I was wondering if those guys that do work on things that are going to start someone's heart, if they're just at the drafting table sweating bullets, like this has to be perfect, like feeling that kind of pressure.
Yeah.
But
well, that is one of the things is like this chase for perfection. And I think just like innately, like when you're working on a project that is going to have a lot of eyes, like, you feel responsible to a degree of what eventually gets put out there. So it is, I would say it is nerve wracking, but I mean, being able to work with a team of people, especially like more senior people, they can vet, your initial ideas as like, hey, like, that's going to put us in a position where we're going to have to get certain certifications or something. And you learn as you go too, but you just try to soak up as much as you can because you really don't know much from school. Like school is, the books, and the real world is actually working in factories and in design studios and really working with people.
Are the people more difficult than the factories? The design?
Yeah, they are. I would say that, and I'm pretty introverted. So leaving school and then getting thrown into like having to, I don't want to say coexist, but like work in a team that has all different personalities and, people want to throw their weight in different ways. It's tough. It can be tough working with a team of people working towards a common goal. And you sometimes, you got to take a step back and learn how to move everyone forward and make sure everyone's heard. And it's tough. I mean, it's not my favorite part of the job, because I think as as a creative, like independent, you want to have full control of how things progress, like with your ideas. So
Yeah.
it's a hurdle.
I mean, with that in mind, I was curious about your approach to innovation and developing products. Kind of how do you, once the idea comes into your mind, what do you do next as an engineer? Also, second part of that is, do you feel like as an engineer you have like a major advantage over other inventors?
I would say I'll answer the second part first. I do think there are benefits to knowing how things are manufactured,
Mm-hmm.
because that can kind of steer your initial concepts into like, okay, well, what can be manufactured for the cheapest solution? Because ultimately, like, any two given solutions like in the marketplace, if they accomplish the same task, but one can be manufactured cheaper than the other, I mean, that's everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say it does help me in that sense. And then I would also say it helps in the sense of I know how companies launch new products. So I know the timelines can like go up and down, and like things are not moving in a straight line. You really don't know what companies are going through internally
Mm-hmm.
when they're trying to launch something new or take on a new inventor's idea, or just, every company has a different like mentality, just like an internal structure. And sometimes it's like just because that's how they have to run in order to be successful, but sometimes it's personality driven. Like you never know who's calling the shots. But yeah, it definitely gives me a better sense of like, okay, this is how companies really launch products, and this is how I could best approach them in a way that doesn't seem threatening or like a liability. You just want to kind of present yourself as an opportunity to help push them forward. And I would say it definitely helps with that. But I would say that there are some downsides too. Engineers typically are pretty detail oriented to a fault,
Mm-hmm.
and can somewhat be like perfectionists. And like I was saying before, it can be hard to let go sometimes. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
with the first product that I licensed, I mean, the product that I presented, it wasn't the product that was ultimately made. The one that they
Mm-hmm.
made was better than mine, but it was manufactured and redesigned. And, I was okay letting that go, but I wish I wouldn't have spent so much time trying to get it perfect, because I wasted probably 2 months just trying to get that design, to be manufactured as cheap as possible. When in fact, the one that they designed was probably a little bit more expensive to make, but it functioned a lot better. So you have to let
Yeah.
go for sure, especially when you're pitching to these companies. And
Getting into
yeah, that's tough.
the marketing side, I notice it's like oil and water with engineers and marketing.
Yeah, the marketing is so tough for me, because I'm not a real, and that's one of my goals for this last year and this upcoming year. That is a huge focus of mine, is to try and better myself at recognizing, why things are marketed the way that they are, and how I can, you know, get that into my products earlier on in the process. Because I mean, some of the stuff I pitched early on in my pitching career is bad sell sheets, bad marketing. And
Oh.
I just wish I would have known what I know now, and know how far I am from like what like an A+ like marketing advertisement looks like. um,
Mm-hmm.
but but it is a goal of mine to focus on that, because that's definitely a weak spot for a lot of engineers, is and just a lot of regular people that don't really understand what marketing is, and what its intent is to like talk to a specific customer set and like make them feel something so that they
Mm-hmm.
make a purchase. So you have to have a
Yeah.
different mindset with that stuff.
You do. After coaching for 8 years, one on one, I've worked with a lot of engineers, and everything goes really well until we start talking about the marketing materials, because to them it just feels like fluff. Like, well,
Yeah,
I can't
it's actually
measure
more
this.
important than the idea.
It is. I mean, you got to be able to communicate it, and you got to be able to get someone else excited about it. And I know that I
Yeah,
take them way out of their comfort zone when I start nudging them like, this is good enough. Like, good enough is
yeah.
like, what? Like, I mean, I might as well be like dumping gasoline all over you and lighting them out. Well, like, good enough. What? We don't do
I
good
wasn't put
enough.
on this earth for good enough. Yeah,
Exactly. I can't do good enough. It's got to be perfect and tested. And,
yeah,
it's like, no, you're fine. You're
yeah.
good. And there's a line, like with marketing. It's like, are you above the line or are you below the line? And
Hmm.
it's such a different mindset, and I have to carefully kind of nudge them forward. Like, what you have is really good. I know you may not believe me and you can't measure it or quantify it or put it on a spreadsheet, but you're good.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next step. It's really funny. But I think knowing that helps. Some people don't even know why they're so stressed out about it. So it's like, this is why. And I explain it
Yeah.
and they're like, okay, this is just a whole new arena for me, something that have no frame of reference for. I wasn't trained in this. So,
Yeah. It
we
does take a whole new eye. I mean,
yeah,
if you look at a really good marketing person, that knows what they're doing, and you look at an engineer, like they're kind of two different personalities, and it's okay. You don't
yeah,
have to be everything, but you have to know like what the needs are, what you're trying to do, and know where you're missing, because you can miss real big, like with
oh yeah,
thinking that you need to put every little detail on that sell sheet of like what your thing does and why it's better. And it's not about
mm-hmm.
that. It's about creating some emotional reaction to the viewer that says, that's different, and this is why I want it instead of what I currently have. Um,
Right.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it's tough.
And I love what you were saying too about having the engineering background and that skill set in terms of approaching, designing products and innovation is so huge, because you can literally do DFM, right? Design for manufacturing. And over the years, I've seen so many products that I describe them like they're such a great idea, but they died on the vine because they pitch them to companies and the companies are like, wow, this is really cool, but there's no way we could make this for at a price point that makes any sense. But we love the concept, we see the need, and then all it would have taken is maybe some industrial design or some more engineering to
Yeah.
get it to a point where then the companies would say, oh, yeah, absolutely, let's take this to the next level. The problem though is when we're pitching, we don't always get the whole story. We get a, hey,
You
sorry,
don't
not a
know.
good fit, thanks. But the
That's it.
truth was, this was designed in a way that we wouldn't work for us to have any profit margin. But they don't,
Yeah,
a lot of
or
times
it's
we
or
don't
it's
hear.
not worth the time for us to look at it and redesign it for you. Like,
Yeah.
it's like
Yep.
we don't know, and it's like if we just knew those little details, it's almost like speaking their language. Like we don't know what each company's language is, like what
Mm-hmm.
their their limits are to like
Mm-hmm.
what the product, how different the product is from what they currently sell. Yeah, you could just miss getting a deal if maybe you had some other little piece of knowledge or some other little detail already worked out in your idea, and you did a better job of communicating it. um,
Yeah.
because yeah, sometimes like you talk to that first person, and there's things you say to the first person that you kind of look back later on and it's like, "Oh, I wish I wouldn't have said that, because I think that they think it's different than what it is." And
Mm-hmm.
um, I just wish that everyone could see with the same eyes what you're trying to show them. But
Yeah.
it's tough.
Yeah, communicating what's in your mind, getting that onto paper, getting that into a prototype, getting that communicated to them so they see the product clearly, they see the benefit. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of not communicating how flexible they are with that. And companies, a lot of times, whatever you present, they're taking that at face value. And it's hard to say,
Yeah.
well, wait, no, you can redesign this or you can change it any way you want. But they're looking at it at face value. So, really taking the time to get some engineering work done, get the product really fleshed out, getting some feedback from potential customers, tweaking, iterating. I think what happens is people are so excited to get it out there and get it in front of companies, they're like, we'll figure all that out later. And it's like, if you do pause and take some time, not to the nth degree or where you get
Right. Yeah.
into paralysis by analysis, but really taking a beat and saying, all right, let's really look at this and from their perspective, which I think is hard to do in a lot of cases for people.
Yeah, yeah, and I will say too is that something that's worked for me in the past is, like I said, I struggled with the marketing material, and I pitched an idea, but with the sell sheet, which I knew was probably a C at best.
Mm-hmm.
I also hired a an illustrative artist to do like line drawings of a user using the product like in a certain situation, and I think what that did is it opened up their eyes of like, okay, like he's presenting us this version. But he's open to changing it to the environment of like, hey, this user needs to solve this problem, and this is the general idea of how they're going to solve it. It kind of opens up their idea of like wanting to jump on board with you
Mm-hmm.
like developing the idea together rather than just presenting a finished idea, say yes or no, do you want it? It's bring them like a solution that's like 80% there. And then pretty much you're trying to pitch them to like get them on board to like finish it with you. I feel like that was been successful to me in the past. And I know it was
Yeah.
successful because the guy had came back, the product manager, and he was like, listen, I'll be honest, I didn't really understand the problem you were solving like with just the sell sheet. I'm glad you sent the drawings and I'm glad you explained it further over the phone. It really
Mm-hmm.
helped kind of pitch the value in a way that I could understand. So I would say don't be afraid of just sending a single PDF one pager. Then again, I wouldn't send a ton of stuff. I think the
Mm-hmm.
ideal thing is like maybe doing a video, but I know that's not possible all the time. But
Mm-hmm.
and I'm learning too. Like I'm going to see what keeps working, but for me, it's like an 80% idea with like some illustrative sketches of maybe some different versions. I think goes a long way.
Yeah, especially for you that can do that, and I'm sure those illustrative sketches look fantastic. But really, it's all about communicating the benefits of the product in a way that people really understand them. And you touched on a couple things there that are really important. One is don't send them your 85-page pitch deck because you're going to overwhelm them. Start with
Yeah,
a one pager. With an embedded video is a good way to do it. Even a 1 minute video that even if the product isn't real yet, you can communicate the benefits of that product and fully explain it where they see the potential, and
yeah,
even incorporate some of those other iterations into the video, or maybe an additional sheet with some of the sketches like you talked about. That's huge. The second is getting on the phone.
yes,
I might sound old fashioned, but I am all about get on a phone call, Zoom call,
one hundred
whatever.
percent.
Yeah. So you can explain
It
it.
breaks the barrier. Yeah, it breaks the barrier. It lets them know that you're not a crazy like inventor. Like you're
Hmm.
just having a conversation. You're just really developing a relationship. And I don't do much emails. I literally when I'm pitching, I'm sorry, when I'm connecting with new companies, I
Hmm.
only work on the phone. I only call. I don't do
Yeah.
LinkedIn. I haven't had much success with that. But
Mm.
yeah, I just try to call them. I try to get to a product manager or someone that I can just start talking to. And I feel like not only have I not had success with just sending a sell sheet, but instead
Hmm.
of just getting a yes or no back, like you can have a conversation and you can kind of ask questions that are, I don't know, just kind of give you a sense of like a little bit more why behind things. And I
Hmm.
totally agree with you. Phone's the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn in terms of networking and using that as a tool to get on a call. But smiling and dialing works. It really, it really does. I think for a lot of inventors, it's the part that they're the least excited about. Help them go through all the other steps, and then we get to the point where it's like, okay, now we get to call companies, and it's like, because him just
Uh,
slamming on the brakes, because there's this new element that just entered the equation called fear of rejection,
yeah.
fear of failure, like,
Yep.
or fear of success. I mean, there's a lot of different fears
Yeah.
that and enter the picture all of a sudden. But you need the cheerleader inside the company to be kind of squeaky, and like you mentioned, developing those relationships. I wanted to ask, what have been some highlights in your inventing journey? I mean, can you share maybe one of your most positive moments as an inventor? Kind of paint us a picture of what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I would say just signing my first licensing agreement was great. I originally, I mean, this was three years ago. I pitched them sort of one concept, and then they liked it. This was after 35 companies said no, and I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
got 35 no's, not 35 contact companies, and you don't talk to anyone. I got 35 thanks, but no thanks, and so I was I liked the idea. I didn't think I was not. I didn't think I was just like trying to push something that wasn't marketable or sellable. But when I finally got to this company, it got back to me in like a half hour. It was like, wow, this is awesome. Like, we would love to, pursue this further. And then, like, while we were talking, I came up kind of like with a refined second product. And they ended up combining the two products into one package and selling it as a set. And so
Oh,
I ended
cool.
up getting technically two products with the first company. And yeah, it just felt like once I did it once, it was like, okay, I can do this again. And I saw
Hmm.
that I just had to keep pushing and pushing and pushing through those no's, like you guys say sometimes. And I will say, it didn't turn out great in the end as far as like
Mm.
making a bunch of money or anything, but I learned a
Hmm.
lot throughout it. And I'm currently in contract negotiations for a new product right now, and there
Cool.
are things that I did in my first one that I am not going to do this time. And you just got to take your lessons as they come, and just be open to continue to learn, really, because this is just a. I mean, I'm still learning every day. I mean, that's what's going to get me to be better at this. So,
Hmm.
so yeah, I would say that was the big one, is just getting the first one.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, the moment when you're actually signing that contract,
Yeah.
like, is this real? Is this happening?
Okay, what now? It's like that was it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was like,
Yeah.
where's the fireworks? Where's the
Yeah.
like, where's the parade? Yeah,
Yeah. My wife made
I,
me a cake actually, so that was nice of her.
oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. It's good to have something in mind, like, how am I going to celebrate this win when I get there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've given some advice to listeners. I just wonder, is there anything else you would add to that? Other inventors that are aspiring to achieve some success, or a new person entering the field of entrepreneurship and innovation. If you could give them like one piece of advice, what would that be?
I would just say, there's a lot of information out there, good, bad, mediocre. I would say listen to it all and try to find people that have done what you want to do
Mhm.
and learn from the people that have made the mistakes that you don't want to make. I mean, I spent a little bit of money on my first idea that I don't spend anymore on my ideas. Like I said, I know my biggest deficiency is marketing. So, like, that's what I'm going to work on now. And I think just look at yourself honestly and kind of break it into categories. And I mean, coming up with the ideas, congratulations, you found a solution to a problem. That is one part of it. And you're always going to have that mentality to solve problems. So that
Mhm.
is a great thing. You're probably going to have lots of ideas. The next thing is to, like, obviously understand how companies work, how companies launch products, and how you can kind of attach yourself to their wagon and pitch to them. And then I would say the next thing is, like, your expectations after signing the deal, I think, need to be realistic, because I mean, even when just a general company launches a product, it doesn't mean it's going to be a success, and they have the full weight of the company behind it. So for
Mhm.
you to come in and develop a relationship with the company, I think is just as important as, like, your first idea being a financial success, because you're going to continue to have ideas. They're always going to want to launch new products, and sooner or later, maybe you get a good financial hit, and it feels really good. But I think you can learn a lot from even just your mediocre successes. And I would say don't spend a lot of money doing this, because I mean, it's risk and reward, right? I mean, you usually have
Mhm.
no control of, after you sign it, what the marketing team does to push your product. You can work into minimum guarantees into your contract. I mean, I haven't had any luck with that yet, but yeah, just be open, be easy to work with, but at the same time, if there's something you believe in, retaining, as far as, like, some sort of right in your contract, stick to it. And another thing I would suggest is, you don't have to do this alone. For the longest time, I did this
Mhm.
alone. And over the past year, I've kind of opened myself up to join some groups of other similar minded people. And I think that that's helped a lot. Because I'm sure, like, I mean, there's ups and downs all the time. And to make
Mhm.
those downs a little bit less down by surrounding yourself with people that have been through it, I think helps a lot. So, and you can share stories and highs and lows. And I think, it's a little funner just to bounce ideas off people and see what other people are up to. And I will say one more thing too is, with AI now as a creative, you're going to be up against a shorter path to just general people developing a new idea and pitching it to a company. So it's going to be much easier for you to pitch new ideas and come up with them. And as long as you use the tools, the graphic design tools and things like that. But it's going to be harder there's going to be a lot more people doing it, I feel like, because it's very easy to, have something in your head and speak it into a computer and iterate very quickly. And behind the scenes, companies are going to be doing this too, in the engineering teams, in their sales teams. So I don't really know how that's going to affect us as kind of independent inventors, but I think it's important to get on the bandwagon now and make sure you know how to use these tools so that as they evolve, you're evolving with it.
Awesome, man. Great stuff. I love that. You covered a lot of bases there. AI is huge. Managing expectations is huge. Going with the flow of the company, knowing what their processes are. I think of a river. A lot of people try to swim up the river instead of going with the flow of getting the companies what they want, what they need. So awesome. That is amazing. Any final thoughts for our Inventor's Edge listeners?
Have fun, enjoy it. I mean, creativity is fun. And like you said in the beginning, I think as humans, like in order to survive, we had to solve problems. We had to innovate. We had to be resourceful with what we had at our disposal. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I feel like people that are creative and are willing to make things, and whether it's do art or music, I think people feel at their most like themselves, like a true version of themselves when they're doing those things. So stick with it. If you get a big hit, congratulations, and even if not, it's still like a valuable growth exercise. So I would suggest to keep doing it.
Awesome, love that. Yeah, bottom line, have fun, enjoy the process. Those are very wise words from a wise man. So I appreciate that, Shawn.
I'll take it.
Definitely. Well, thanks so much for your time, insights, contribution to the episode. It's such a fascinating topics. And as inventors, I'm confident our listeners have grabbed some really tangible takeaways and things they can use, when they're designing their own products. And for the listeners, please share your thoughts, comments, or questions about the episode. Be sure to connect with us on social media. If you're watching this on YouTube, smash the like button and subscribe. Shawn, I appreciate you being here. I'm excited to get you back on a future episode. We can keep talking through things. Thanks for tuning in to the Inventor's Edge podcast. I'm your host, Scott Putnam, and if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a review, and please share it with fellow inventors. Your next breakthrough could be just around the corner. For more tools, tips, and resources, visit us at inventors-edge.com. Until next time, invent with purpose, innovate with passion, and bring your ideas to life.